All right, then we'll do so mind control. Let's talk about mind control. Why am I obsessed with the moon landing and trying to uncover it? So I've been trying to learn Clair de Lune, and I'm just looking at this moon, just like I'm fascinated because I have no idea what that is. None. It isn't what they say. So I talk about the moon landing, where it's like, where I'm like, the moon landing obviously didn't happen. It's on them to prove it happened, not on us to prove it didn't happen, because it goes against every aspect of our life. And people are like, well, I mean, why do you even care? That it's everywhere. Someone did this bottom part. I put it with the top part, one of the bears. Even Oreo is like, the moon landing 50th anniversary. I think tomorrow may be the 50th anniversary, and I'm going to do a whole episode just on the moon landing. It's like, let it go. Why does it even matter? Because it's everywhere, and it's used to control you. So here's Life, the moon landing. Here's Texas Monthly, to the moon and back. It's just everything's about the moon landing. Why? Because it's the way to control someone, and this is very, very real, is when you get them to agree to something that's obviously insane, they'll agree to anything you say. It's how you show authority. So you can't make a cell phone call in the road coming to my house. Like, you lose reception every day when I'm like on the phone to Vox talking about unauthorized or something. And if I'm going down a certain dip in the road, the call drops every time. Okay? In 1969, they're saying that you can make a phone call from the moon to the White House. It's like, how you doing up there, Buzz? Well, sir, I'm obviously hammered, and I'm driving around a dune buggy that we brought up here for no reason. So they did the unthinkable. Like, okay, they didn't have the electricity or power to broadcast anything. Right now, our local TV station, if I wanted to go there, you would see giant transformers for power, giant dishes, all this stuff. And that's within the ionosphere of our world. To go past the Van Allen belt, past the ionosphere, past into what they claim to be a vacuum. Forget that a vacuum would destroy the Lem, conveniently named after John F. Kennedy's homosexual boyfriend named Lem. Very unique name. Nothing can exist in a vacuum. When you create a vacuum on Earth, it takes 6-foot cement and lead containers to make a vacuum, and everything is crushed or explodes. It absolutely dismantles everything, a real vacuum. So their little lander that looks like an ant colony on Adderall created it out of paper mache would obviously be destroyed. Once they get there, they have, with a 12-volt battery, they send a television signal through 240,000 miles of vacuum, through a Van Allen belt of radiation, through the ionosphere, into our atmosphere, on a planet that they claim is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and have a clear conversation with the President of the United States of America. The proof they then destroy, because they said there was budget problems, even though they were making $58 million a day since 1969 in today's money. And the technology that they used to get to the moon, they have destroyed and cannot replicate. Okay, that's crazier than me right now saying I'm a penguin. So what effect does it have on people? What it does is, when you agree to something that preposterous, and also the moon rocks have all been confirmed to be petrified wood. They lost all the data, as 1 metric ton of telemetry data has now been destroyed. Okay. So the rebuttal to that is, but there's reflectors on the moon. It's like, okay, it's your job to tell me how people got to the moon in a vacuum, drove around a dune buggy, had a long distance call, and went back a couple times and never went back, destroyed all the evidence, it's so preposterous. It's the start of a cult. It's the start of secular religion, because once you accept that which you cannot prove at all, and people will be like, well, you believe in Jesus Christ. It's like, there were way more witnesses, way more evidence right now of Jesus' resurrection than of that entire moon thing. Way more documented evidence, even if you go that direction. And here's another difference. I have faith. It's like I believe in something that I can't physically prove. It's faith. They don't claim to have faith. They say they have scientific knowledge. They're evangelical atheists. You know, they're like, we know we went to the moon. All the evidence says that not only did you not go to the moon, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. So you name something after the current president's homosexual boyfriend named Lem. You do a live TV broadcast. Nobody in television, when pressed, would say that this is remotely possible. Think of all the power you need to transmit 90 miles under our ionosphere, under the Van Allen belt, not in a vacuum. Okay, and that's with fixed positions nearby. Now, imagine you're on the moon in 1969 with 12-volt batteries that are not being used for heating or cooling, even though you're on a planet, allegedly, or a moon, that ranges from plus 300 to minus 260 degrees Celsius. No heating, no cooling. In a vacuum with, have you seen the spacesuits? The pressurized? That doesn't exist in a vacuum. Okay? So they then beam the live feed and have a live conversation with Nixon, which is on a moving planet at 1,000 miles an hour. They're aiming the signal with no power through the thickest radiation belts known to man. The ionosphere, the magnetosphere, the Van Allen belt, 240,000 miles of vacuum. And then this is how the people that are mind controlled will say. They'll say, it wasn't 240,000 miles, it was kilometers or, something. And they'll be like, that discredits you. And I'm like, you're mind controlled. And so then when you see people believe the Russia collusion narrative or global warming or 7-year-olds can be trans or Caitlyn Jenner's the woman of the year, and you think, how can people fall for that? When you fall for the first one, you'll fall for any of it. And there's different ones designed for different groups. The moon landing is designed for right-wing narrative control. Neocon. It's like Steven Crowder's father and Steven Crowder lost their minds when I questioned the moon landing. Because if the moon landing isn't real, the entire military-industrial complex in which they serve is not trustworthy. Because the lie has been so long and so drawn out. Same with 9/11. 9/11, there's never been a steel-structured building collapse from fire up until 9/11 or after, to the point where they've had 30-hour fires with a similar building, and they still use the same frame. It does not collapse. Building 7 apparently collapsed because of a fire in one room. Okay, if you believe that, you will believe anything anyone tells you because you've submitted your will. It's just like a hypnotist. You can only be hypnotized when you want to. You can't do it if you're skeptical. If you're saying it's just a watch. In your mind, if a watch is going like this, you're getting very sleepy. If you say, no, I'm not. Watch the watch. Okay, it's just a watch. You're getting very sleepy. No, I'm not. Sleepy. No, I'm not. You can't be hypnotized. You have to take the ticket. In life, it's all about taking the ticket. And so when you take that first ticket and you have no interest, I used to think we went to the moon. I used to want to be an astronaut. I thought that 19 hijackers who got their weapons from Staples and took over Boeing giant jumbo jets and did what no pilot has ever been able to do or replicate or could ever do, just because they hated our freedom. And then we had to go to war with Iraq because of it. I believe that to the point where right after I wanted to join the military and make them pay. But when you see the evidence, are you going to shut your ears and your eyes and go, la, 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 I like my life. You become a non-player character and you're controlled. It happens all the time. It happens in life. That's why trauma is a way to control people. In Game of Thrones, there was a great subplot that showed mind control. It was that dude who goes to the Iron Islands and that other dude cut his wiener off. They would let him try to escape. And right as he'd be about to get freedom, they'd send the dogs after him and they'd get him. They did it by design over and over and over again. And so it got to the point where it's not about breaking people. It's about making you love them. Because if you just breaking someone isn't as powerful. Like what happened with that dude was breaking an animal. It was just saying like, you've been shocked and beaten so many times that you will cower. That isn't real mind control. So they get him excited with these two women, and then they sever his unit, right? And so, Mark's gone. I gotta call him back. And then they keep giving him tastes of freedom and beat him for it. That's how you break a man. Breaking someone isn't as effective. And just like in Game of Thrones, in the real world, at the very end, he was still capable of killing someone for his people because the level that they want you to get is to love them. Love. They want you to love Neil Armstrong, love Buzz Aldrin. And the more they mock you and put it right in plain sight, it's a show of control. One of the biggest control acts you can do is go into public, kill a man in front of, a great scene in a movie was the one with Denzel Washington. All right, okay. It was called, he was a heroin dealer, a heroin marketer. Do you guys know what that's called? Jon Snow's Pure Logos, right? Well, he was the reluctant leader. Yeah, there was a lot of logos in Jon Snow, but he's also a bit of a pussy. What was that called with Denzel Washington? It was called like where he was a heroin dealer. Stockholm Syndrome over and over and over again. Yeah, but Stockholm, right, not Training Day. It's not American Gangster, right? There's a scene where he, in public, shoots someone right in front of everyone, and nothing happens. What happens when he does that is he shows everyone that he's above the law. That no one, Vlad the Impaler used to put a golden goblet in the center of the town square unguarded, and no one would ever take it. And that reinforced his power, saying, look what I'm doing right in front of you. That's why so much of this mind control power stuff is so blatant, because that's what they want you to do. They want you to say, look, we're waving the fag flag at our church. Are you still going to come pray? And they do. They get on their knees and they pray to what they believe is God, as their female pastor is waving a fag flag going, pride and sodomy, pride and sodomy. And the people are saying, praise be to Jesus. And, and it's like, that's control. It's like you're going against the Bible on a deep, like Sodom and Gomorrah burning level. And you're going to say it's Christianity? You're controlled, mind control. You don't understand how important the moon landing is. When I focus on it, I try to break people from there. I'm like deculting people. That's why when the liars and the wizards call me a cult leader, I'm deprogramming a cult. That's what I do here all the time. This isn't real. Nothing about this is real. Hang on, right here. That isn't a real thing. That can't exist in a vacuum. Nothing about it makes sense. You can't do a live television broadcast from the moon. You can barely do it from Milwaukee. Right now, 2019, with tens of thousands of volts of electricity. And some will be like, oh, it's ohms. What cult people will do is they'll try and latch on to one little tiny detail that you may have gotten wrong. And they'll say, oh, 10,000 volts. No, 22,000 volts. They had a 12-volt battery. Nothing about it makes any sense. And the reason it's so important, because so much of our culture right now is based on it. Because that's cemented like 8 lies. It cemented that the government is capable of doing miracles. That's now your Jesus. Whether you say you're Christian or not, if you believe in the moon landing, that's your Jesus. Neil Armstrong is your Jesus. Because they just did a miracle. Because none of it is real. And you just believe it. You give up your faith. You give them your faith. You give them your will. You become a non-player character who set up the bloody camera. Guys, none of it makes sense. The film can't make it through the Van Allen belt, let alone the people, let alone the Lem, named after John F. Kennedy's homosexual boyfriend. They deleted all the proof. They never went back, and they smugly, with Don Pettit, who sounds like he literally has Down syndrome, he goes, it's too painful to rebuild the technology, so we don't go back. It's too painful. And people go, that checks out. Because you've given up your will. It's a cult. It's cult training. Guys, this is what cults do all the time. They say, pray to the owl, pray to the owl. It's like, why? Just do it, do it. And then you grow to love the owl. It's like through trauma and then fake redemption, people are controlled and submitted. Why do black folks put mustard on Tootsie Rolls? That's a very good question. That's one of the lies. Can you please tell us others? I think it's important. The biggest two lies are 9/11 and the moon landing because they're designed for this. There's other lies. There's other narratives. But these two are two of the things they're government miracles. And when you say, okay, none of it makes logical sense. None of it fits in the rules of my life, my physical reality, my spiritual reality, my emotional reality, my familiar reality, all my friends, everything I've ever seen and done in my life, I will put that all aside to believe you. As soon as you do that, that person owns your mind. They own you because they say, give up your family, give up your friends, give up your faith. Because everything about that goes against God. It goes against your family, goes against your physical reality. Look, you can just, it's like the laws of gravity as we perceive them on the earth. Okay, the moon's shadow is 70 miles wide. There is no shadow that is smaller than the object. You've never seen it one time in your life, but yet you will believe it because someone just says a new word, umbra. You don't know what umbra means. You don't know what transphobia means. When they say, look at Bruce Jenner, that's the woman of the year. And guys, I witnessed people in Hollywood, people that I thought I could trust, people I thought were smart, people that I thought were talented. They'd look at me in the eye like hazed, opioid addicted cult members and say, how dare you not say she's beautiful? I'm like, that is Bruce Jenner. So my joke was, they say Caitlyn Jenner is woman of the year, but Caitlyn Jenner hasn't been a woman for a full year. And of course the crowd would laugh because I was breaking their programming, and they kicked me out of Hollywood for breaking programming. They're like, no. I saw people that I knew for years. I've been in their wedding parties, guys, and they look at me in the eye and say, Caitlyn Jenner is a beautiful woman. And I'd be like, it's all a big joke, right? Guys, Caitlyn Jenner is more a beautiful woman than we went to the moon. That's even crazier. The fact Bruce Jenner can put on a dress makes that man more of a woman than we've ever been to the moon. And I was looking at people, I watched it happen in real time because their controllers, the people that gave them lollipops and fancy pants. Lollipops means indulgences and fancy pants means status. Who gets to wear the fancy pants? Who gets a gold star? Ha ha! Right? And they looked at me in the eye and they said, Caitlyn Jenner, is a beautiful woman. How dare you? That's why one of my first specials I produced myself is called How Dare Me. How dare me speak truth in the upside down. These people looked at me in the eye and said, Frank Gunn is just joking. And his tweets were like, I don't even want to say it, about pedophilia. I'm like, guys, we write jokes for a living. That's not joking. They said, Caitlyn Jenner's the woman of the year. That's a beautiful woman. How dare you? And Bruce Jenner would be going, call me Caitlyn. And everyone would be like, okay, Caitlyn, you're beautiful. You're sexy. Look how sexy Caitlyn Jenner is. I'm dead serious. These are people that, it would blow your mind who these people are. Like people that you've seen in movies, people you're like, wait, this all must be a terrible dream. And so then you start going back to the roots. Where does this happen? 19 people from the sands of Saudi Arabia just hated your freedom. So they went to Hollywood, Florida, and learned how to fly a propeller little plane. Then they went to Staples and got box cutters. Then they took over jumbo jets with the box cutters, flew the jumbo jets perfectly into the side of a building with a steel frame, and that building just fell. And then building 7 next to it also fell because of a random fire. And then now we're going to go to war for the next 20 years. If you believe that, you'll believe anything. If you believe that this is what mind control is, it was in Star Trek and 1984. It's like, look at the lights. There are 4 lights. I can't remember if it was 4 or 3 in it, but it was either 4 real lights or 3 real lights. And so you have someone torturing someone. There are 3 lights, and you see 3. It's like, or no, I think it was 4. So there are 4 lights, and the torturers are saying it's 3 lights, and they're like, it's 4 lights, and then zzz, ah! There are 4 lights. It's 3 lights, and then they start wincing when you bring the electricity. Okay, it's 3 lights. You're now owned because you've given up your word. You've given up your ability to say, and they'll just keep doing that over and over again until you look to them. Am I right? It's called grooming. What's the right answer? What's the right answer? And then they make you love them because breaking a person is not enough. It's all theater? It's not. It's mind control. Theater, is it fake? Obviously. But it's designed. It was figured out in a lab. The world is not fake. The world is very real. Yeah, building 7's insane. But here's where I get off the train. Who did it and why? I don't know. Because it's rabbit hole to rabbit hole. That's the next trap. The first trap is believe nonsense. Okay, now once you've established that it is nonsense, the next trap is tell me why and who did it and make a claim. And when we keep proving you wrong and you readjust, it's not Cheney, it's Israel. It's not Israel, it's the black nobility. It's not the black nobility, it's Satan himself. It's the Tesla. Want to know the next act of power? I don't know. I don't know who did it or why. I just know it was theater. Now I'm going to go back to making kids and milking goats. And that, my friends, is how you get out of mind control.